10:15. Everybody would stand. Mr. Thornton, you want to bless the meeting?
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this beautiful day. Be with us today as we do the work of our Cherokee people and try to do what's best for them. In Jesus Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Shelley, roll call.
Joe Bird,
Ani?
David Walkingstick, Jack Baker,
Here.
Charlie Buzzard,
Here.
Julia Coates, Jody Fishinghawk, Janelle Fulbright, John Garvin, Frankie Hargis,
Present.
China Gloria Jordan,
Present.
Lee Keener,
Ani?
Dick Blake,
Here.
Curtis Snell, Janice Taylor,
Here.
David Thornton,
Ani.
Victoria Vasquez, Kara Cowan Watts.
Ani.
We do have a
We do have a quorum. Approval of minutes that were mailed to you.
Make a motion they be approved.
Motion and a second. All signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, dropping down the reports, I see Mr. Bill Horton, Election Commission. Harvey? Yes, we are.
Good morning.
Good morning, Bill.
Well, you got me on the chopping block right off the bat, didn't you? I guess you got our report that we sent in to the rules committee.
I'd have any questions?
Everybody get the letter that we sent in?
Yes.
You got questions on that?
Counselor Taylor?
I do have one question, and it's just out of curiosity. How many relinquished or deceased would you say you do monthly?
Well, you can't hardly give an answer on how many relinquished or deceased because they don't send them in. We almost got to twist our arms to get them to
That's
fill out one when we go out to the community meeting. That would be hard. You might get 2 1 month, you might get 6 1 month, so it'd be hard to say
I was just curious
what you
because
get.
I would think that would be the most difficult thing to get people off the voter list.
I will tell you this, that in October the 13th of 2013, we had an enrollment on our voter registration of 57,889. And as of June the 10th of 14, we have 61,069, which is a increase of 3,180 voter registrations, which I think is real good. And our voter registration, we're caught up. There's not any behind. We're on track.
Counselor Lay?
Thank you, sir. Morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
I just want to ask if you've got caught up yet with enough staff to try to now kind of work on the folks that were displaced out of district and so forth during that last election, and I think maybe there still might be a few. I just wondered if you...
We're pretty well caught up. We're caught up. We're kind of going to be down to one person in the office because our office employee that we've got hired right now that's been a real good employee has got another position coming open. Friday will be his last day. But we are going to try to get administrator and clerk 1 and clerk 2 hired ASAP as fast as we can.
And then they'll be able to work on some of those issues that we had previously.
Right, but most of the issues are caught up right now.
Oh, good.
We're caught up.
Good. Speaker?
Yes, Mr. Horton, would you give me those figures and dates again?
Okay, as October 13th of 2013, we had a voter registration of 57,889. And as of June the 10th of 14, we have 61,069, which is an increase of 3,180 registered voters, just increase.
And was that mostly a backlog that you all got cleared out?
Part of it was backlog, but we've been going to all these community meetings, and we've been getting anywhere from 50 to 80 to 100 at each meeting we go to, and it's really helped.
And you've got everything entered?
Yes, ma'am.
Everybody that's qualified to be a voter is in the
Yes, ma'am.
system now?
Yes,
And you're doing your monthly updates on if somebody will give you information on someone that's deceased, and then your address changes, you're getting all that done?
yes. We got all of our backlog caught up.
And you've ordered half of the new machines, is that right?
That's correct. We've got half of
And
them.
the other half will be ordered after October 1?
The other half will be in before long. The company wants to get them here and get them all together. We're not going to pay for them out of this budget, but it'll be out of the next year's budget. They understand that. But when they do the machines, to check the machines, they want them all here at one time, so they don't have to come and do half of them and come back and do the other half.
And I understand just from, I think I read it somewhere, that you all are now set up with your postal machines so that you all can send your own absentees out.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That's a
And
big,
the
that's a
machine
big
that-
plus.
The machine that we agreed to get, and I don't know that much about them, but Ms. Parnell does, because she's done the election services for the 3 or 4 different counties through the state, and it automatically updates. If the postage change, it changes. It takes care of everything. We don't have to go through all the process of getting everything done.
So
That's
this
manual.
next election, we don't have to pay people from out of state to take care of our business. We're taking care of our business ourselves.
It'll be all in-house. It'll be all through the election commission.
That's
And Ms.
moving
Parnell will serve as the vendor. What the vendor's been from like some California or Wisconsin or Minnesota or someplace like that, it'll all be in-house. It's all done that way.
And that was the hope, I think, of many of us, that we would eventually get to the place where we conduct our own elections and not outsiders conducting it.
Well, it takes a lot of doubt out of it, because it's all going to be right there where we can see it, because before we'd have to call wherever they're at, and then they didn't really understand exactly how Indian elections went, different from what the elections go as of state. And so this way, it'll all just be right there.
Well, thank you for your service, and thank you for the work you're doing.
We hope to have a swift and clean, good election, without any glitches, but we hope for that, but probably there'll be a glitch somewhere.
I do understand that once we use these machines one time, they've probably paid for themselves based on what we paid on the last couple elections.
It'll probably more than twice or 3 times pay for itself.
Well, thank you again.
Thank you.
Counselor Fulbright?
Thank you. I just want to thank the commission on what an outstanding job you're doing in getting people to register to vote. You've had someone at all of our events in Sequoia County, our community meetings, our photo ID meetings, and I was amazed at Roland and Sallisaw, what a stack of new people that you got to register to vote. And that's one of the things that the Carter Commission, I don't know, say they criticized it, but they recommended that we have a better outreach to get more people, to participate, to vote.
I think you had the word right the first time. They pretty well criticized it.
Well, anyway, I'm really glad, because a lot of these events are at night, and several of the commissioners drove a long ways, and a lot of the election commission came themselves. You just didn't send a clerk down, and you were really promoting voter registration. You had your big signs, and I thought you just did an outstanding job reaching new people. It's really hard to get people to register to vote. They may come out there and get a car tag or go to the doctor, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to register to vote. So,
Well, even
you're
at
to
our
be commended on that.
even at our community meetings, when we have them, when they come in, we'll say, "Are you here to get your photo ID?" And they say, "Yes." I said, "Are you registered to vote?" "Oh, yeah, we got a blue card." Well, a blue card don't mean you're registered to vote, you
Right,
know.
but they think it does.
And they think it does. And we said, well, are you registered to vote in the Cherokee elections? And they said, well, no, I don't think so. Well, why don't you take a registration form? We registered 80 at Claremore the other day, which I thought was real good.
That's great. You're to be commended. I think the commission's doing a great job.
Collinsville instead of Claremore, yeah.
Thank you.
Counselor Coates?
Thank you. Mr. Horton, I was wondering if I know what I hear a lot from my constituents because they all vote absentee, right? And I know that in past elections, what I've heard from so many is that they sent in a ballot or a voter registration form, and it was never received, whether the mail lost it or maybe they faxed it and it didn't go through for some reason or whatever, it was not received. Likewise with the absentee ballot request forms. There seem to have been a lot of issues in the past with, just getting the requests received and logged in somehow. And I'm not saying anything about the Election Commission, very likely these things have been lost somewhere else. But what I'm wondering is if there are, if there's any plans on the part of the Election Commission to put into place some sort of a process to verify the receipt of these kinds of requests, so that if people have sent something in, that within 2 weeks, maybe they could go online or something like that and check to make sure that it's been received, so that if it hasn't been received, they can resend some kind of a request. I guess what I'm asking is if there might be some kind of a backup.
I think where you're coming from on that is the vendors that we had, from out of state. They don't understand, like I was saying before, they don't understand on the absentee ballot part as far as the Cherokee Nation goes in the Indian elections, and they had kind of a screw up on some of the absentee ballots themselves, but this is going to be all in-house, and we've got our backlog. We had a big backlog of people that hadn't been put into the system. They've been put into the system now, and that should clear up a lot of the problems.
I understand all of that, but what I'm asking is for those requests that never even seem to be received. So it's not a matter of the vendor, because the vendor can't do anything if the request is not even received, right? The Election Commission can't do anything if, even if we're doing it in-house, if for some reason the requests are never even received. And so what I'm asking is if there is some way that when requests for voter registration or for absentee ballots are received, that the Election Commission can somehow note that, they can list it so that people can check to make sure that their request has been received, so that if it has not been received, they can resend something.
I think the way you could do that, at the present time, under the existing law, the voter list or voter registration list are available for a fee under the law, and it provides that. It would require, I think what you're talking about is something where you could look up online to see if you were registered or not. Look up online to see if you were going to receive an absentee ballot or had received a request. That could be done, but I do think it would probably take a change in the law for the council to authorize that to be done. Now the only authorization in the code is to provide voter registration list and absentee request list to any Cherokee citizen that pays the fee for that list.
Well, what I understood was that the recent changes to the election code were actually for this council to kind of back off of legislating a lot about the process that the Election Commission itself engages in. So I would see this as being part of the process of conducting an election, which the intent was to give the Election Commission a lot of latitude to put together that process in its own right. And I would be kind of, again, I think that the council probably needs to stay out of this as much as possible, but I do know that this has been one of the complaints and the concerns. And again, I want to be very, very clear that I'm not, things get lost all the time in the mail, the faxes don't go through, whatever it may be. So I'm not trying to place blame anywhere. I'm just saying that things they aren't received. And I'm just looking for a way that new registrations, as well as those who are requesting absentee ballots, can verify that their request has been received. And I think that's part of the process, that the Election Commission actually has all the authority in the world to put that in place, should they need to. I don't think there's anything in our law that says they can't. And I think that our law is deliberately broad, so that you guys have all the freedom in the world to put the process together as you see fit.
When we get registration forms and they're filled out correctly with signatures and birthdays and all this, we get them processed, then we send a card out to the people that gets registered and tell them that they are a registered voter and that they will receive a voter registration card in the mail before the next election, and it'll tell them the precinct and the address of the precinct where they're at. And as far as somebody sends in and wants a absentee ballot and it gets lost, we don't know who sent it in. If it gets lost, we don't know who it is. I mean,
Well,
but if we get
precisely,
if we
that's
get a
what
request for an
yeah.
absentee ballot and they're a registered voter, they'll definitely get a ballot with a return envelope to send that stamp.
I understand all of that. What you're talking about is the in-district process, identifying precincts and so forth. For the at-large voters, that doesn't happen. They don't get a card because there's no precinct to direct them to, right? And they all vote absentee. And I don't know. I don't want to. I just was hoping, and trying to make a suggestion. That we seem to have had a lot of issues with the at-large absentee voting recently, and that to maybe request that the Election Commission look at a way that people who have made requests, people who live in other states or outside the jurisdiction, could verify that their request has been received. It's sort of saying, well, in the absence of getting something is kind of a negative way to go about it, it seems to me, in a way.
I think it's something that could be looked at. I think it would need to look at, one, if it's authorized under the existing law, two, if it's technically feasible, and three, if it's economically feasible. And that's something that the commission as a whole would have to look at and see.
Well, I would urge the commission to do that, and I know it would be much appreciated if there was some way for the at-large people to know for sure that they were indeed registered and the request had been received. So those are mine.
Like I say, I think a lot of that issue is because of the out-processing from different agencies from different states that don't know exactly how we're doing.
I'm talking about something that happens before it even gets to, just a request that went missing in the mail or something like that. That's what I mean.
We wouldn't.
I might explain one thing that all the council probably needs to be aware of. On your voters who are wanting to register that are in your districts that you know, we have received a lot of registrations lately that do not have the complete information on it. Now, the citizenship card is not a problem anymore because under the law, and the council does, if there's enough information to identify that voter with the tribal registration laws, we can look up and fill in the citizenship number. But if there's a date of birth missing, or there is
Signature.
Address missing, or something, there's enough missing that we cannot identify that voter, the name alone is not sufficient because there are voters who have the same name, and also we have to be able to verify by birth date or address or something. Now, the commission does, when they get one of those, they try to contact that voter, they send them a letter, they call them on the phone, and ask them to give their birth date or whatever the information is needed. But I would just simply ask you, if you're talking to people that are going to register or you're registering them in this upcoming election year, make sure that you or your staff encourage them to completely fill out the application so that we can go ahead and process it without having to take the time to call them or send them letters.
Thank you, thank you.
Are you good? Counselor Hargis?
My comment was just to Julia, I would advise them to call and ask that the thing was received, because we have to do that here. Because when they send it in, they don't get a card until it's an election time. And they'll say, I haven't heard from them, I said, well, call them and make sure they got it. So that would be my advice to them.
I understand that. I don't represent 10,000 people who live close to me, though, and so it's hard for me to get the word out to people, you know, all over the country
Well,
that
when
you
they call,
need to call.
when they contact you, call them.
Yeah.
Of course, we don't know who's trying to contact us till we get contact.
Right.
Exactly.
Good. Counselor Keener?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question was, thank you for being here this morning, Mr. Chafin, Mr. Ward. My question was, as highway designations change, will the election commission be coming to the council at some point to remap, if you will, the districts, or how's that being handled right now?
Well, the way it's been handled right now, is we're going by the way it was laid out
Right.
originally.
Right. But I know, like if, like say Highway 20 would be changing during the course of the year, how is that handled? I
That
guess
was
my
court,
question.
that was changed through the court system. It went
Yeah,
through.
but
No,
he's talking
well,
about
okay, it's a
futures.
bad example, bad example. Highway X is going to change route. So how would that be handled?
I think it would have to be, legally, I think that when the council passed their redistricting and established those zones have to stay the same as they were, those lines, at the time you passed it. If a highway changes its number or name or moves, I don't think that will change the redistricting.
Okay, but some of the boundaries are following the highway, so does the election commission need assistance from the council to address that as far as the population?
You probably need to ask your legal counsel that question, but I think the council can rezone whatever, or rezone, redistrict every so many years. And I think that you would have to follow whatever the legal requirements are for rezoning. I don't think you can do it every year or every month or something like that.
Okay, so for the next election, then, we will use what was most recently passed.
What we've got.
Yes.
Even though the citizen may be out of district according to the description, but it's
The line will stay in the same place.
right, but the highway may
Right,
move.
the highway may move. He would stay in that same district he was in before.
Okay. And the Highway 20, that is a good example, because I think the Supreme Court said on Wednesday, this is the way it's going to be, then on Thursday, the council was already wanting to change it to accommodate a candidate they wanted to run. So but the voter is what I'm interested in. So they need to, we don't need to address that at this time or before the next election?
Wouldn't
That'd
say.
be something you probably need to ask your legal counsel. The districting area is in the council's pocket, not the commission. We don't have anything to do with districting. We just follow your districts as you set them. And what we're following now is the legal descriptions and maps that were presented to the Supreme Court when the redistricting was set forth. The one you're talking about on the old Highway 20 issue, you might remember that there was some confusion as to where it was intended to be, and the court said it's going to be where we said it was in the declaratory judgment action. So that's where it'll have to stay until the council changes it or until the court changes it. That's what we're following is that court decision that listed the boundaries and with the maps that were presented to court at the time in the declaratory judgment. The council brought and the court decided that districting was constitutional, and that's what we're following.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Counselor Watts?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I really appreciate you guys being here today. Thank you so much, Chairman Horton. Mr. Jason. So there's a couple of things. First of all, on what Councilman Keener was asking, the way I understood that is, even if ODOT has changed the official designation of a highway and it's been rerouted either physically or they designate a new area or route a certain highway, the way I understand your response is, it is going to be frozen in time as whatever that highway designation was at the time of the court. Is that correct?
Correct.
That's my legal opinion and advice.
Okay. Just want to make sure that I understood that
The
correctly.
court could change that, but that's my opinion. I'll give it to
Okay.
the commission.
I want to be able to explain it to my voters because apparently somewhere like, I think maybe Adair County or somewhere, there has been some change that somebody was asking about. So that's a reasonable explanation. It's frozen at that point in time, and I get that. Okay, so I appreciate the memo, and obviously I think that all of us want to be respectful of that line between the Autonomous Election Commission and us. I know that the Election Commission has been standard, if I recall correctly, on our agenda since I was in council since 2003. I don't know if anybody remembers before that, but I think they've been reporting to the council for some time. So I don't think anyone's asking for anything new, but I still appreciate, I guess, the tone of the memo. I'm sure this was your legal advice. So with that, I think, and I have questions around some of the things that Councilwoman Coates had asked. We have lots of questions from constituents. I know one had recently asked about the absentee ballot notary in California, for example, and he wrote an opinion back about the changes to the absentee notary requirements, that it wouldn't affect, and you had done research. I mean, that is exciting. Those are the details that keep us out of court, right? Which is, I think, what all of us want.
Try to
You
keep
don't want
us out of court.
Right, try to keep, yes, thank you for the caveat. So I think all of us want to try to stay out of court in terms of questioning the integrity of an election. We want to know, what is that process? What should they expect? Then only we would go to court that process deviated in actual implementation, we would hope. So for example, I know you guys were removed from the Administrative Appeal or Administrative Procedures Act, the APA. So will that opinion on the California notary be posted online with your meeting minutes, for example, so that everyone, because more than just the one constituent has that question. So rather than they have to know Ms. Scott and find her by email to get that out, will it be posted online so that they have like a Q&A section, so to speak, so that voters can send you in a formal questions asking for an opinion back and clarification on a procedure or issue of concern? And then that response be posted online. Is that something that could happen?
There's not a process for that now. That's something the commission could consider. With regard to the California voters and the absentee, I think that's something you are going to address later in your session today regarding the jurats that California uses rather than the other. And that's the one that you're talking about, the opinion. I think that's what was discussed in the letter. That was a letter that was prepared by staff to explain the law, and it was not an action by the commission. If the commission takes any action that is policy or decision on that, yes, it would be part of the minutes and part of the record.
Well,
But the letter you're discussing was something that was prepared by staff to explain to that person or answer their question.
okay, so to me, it's kind of a catch-22 because we've removed you from the Administrative Procedures Act, which would require very diligent public documentation on the web of answers and questions and public input. Those some things, the meeting minutes. do, I think, get video of your meetings because the Cherokee Phoenix is there, if they're able to be there. Some of those special meetings get called so quickly, sometimes they can't be there or don't know. So although I appreciate, so you have your separate meetings, and you know, it's hard for me to cancel my constituents or whatever I've got planned if there's a meeting called the next day, to rush to Tahlequah to be here for a meeting. So if my constituents have questions and they expect me to answer those, there's one thing about being in your meetings, plus there's no public documentation, then I would think that would be, I mean, here, the world knows if we were abusive towards the Election Commission and crossed any lines. It's very well documented, it's in front of our colleagues, it's a different opportunity. So I'm glad to see that you're gonna still be coming to meetings, because I think that's where it would be appropriate for us to try to ask, to make sure and clarify some of these questions, and make sure that we're ready to be prepared if we need to amend the laws to accommodate reality, for example. So is there a way that you guys could be more public via the web in order to document these things for our voters about the process and Q&A and clarifications? Is that-
Of course, all of the minutes are posted on the web. So any action that the commission takes as a body has to be taken at a meeting, at an open meeting, and the minutes of those meetings are posted on the web. So any action or policy the commission takes is posted. With regard to individual citizens' questions, and we have a lot of those either by email or by telephone call, staff handles those and answers those questions based on the policies that exist and the law that exists. So, and those are simply answering those questions, and I think the staff would encourage any voter, any citizen that has a question, don't hesitate to call the Election Commission and ask the question, or email, or write a letter.
So a Q&A of sorts, a frequent questions and answers kind of thing, is something you don't want to maybe consider for the website, so that we can clarify some of these and cut down on staff time? Because I'm about to ask you other questions which will be very staff intensive.
Well, you're gonna have to realize one thing, we've only got
I know.
one person, a clerk, two, right now, and Ms. Parnell. And we're kind of short-handed. And if we stayed on the computer all day on questions and answers, we wouldn't get anything done. You'd say, well, how come you hadn't got the people registered? We're more interested in getting the people registered than the question and answer all the time, which if they call in, we will answer it. But if it's as far as staying on the computer or email 8 hours a day, we can't do that.
I think that's what I'm trying to help address, is that frequent questions and answers, you would go ahead and have a section on your website, web pages to post, so that in hopes in cutting down on email traffic, and that there would be a consistent understanding of what the response is.
I think that's what we're doing now.
Oh, you have an FQA on your website? I didn't.
Here at the council. That was the main purpose of the commission agreeing to come to the council, was to help, one, educate the council and the voters as to the process, and help them understand it.
Okay, so it sounds like no, and that's fine if that's the answer.
Well, I think
But I want to be able to explain it to the constituents and let them know that we've at least asked.
I think it would be hard for the commission to spend all of its time answering questions. As I say, any citizen that has a question could call the commission and ask them. Any question the council has at this meeting or at future meetings, they can ask, and it can be broadcast to the citizens. But I don't know. I guess you're asking, can the commission set up a time that they have a meeting every week or every month to take questions and answers from the citizens, or I guess I don't understand what you're asking.
Sorry, I was having distracted. That's, if there is a frequent question and answer, such as the absentee ballots, Notary, I think that Ms. Scott's request is a pretty big deal, the request she made and the response. The question, maybe without a de-identified, it doesn't have to be about the constituent that asked. But the question would be just simply the question asked or rephrased, and then the response, and maybe some sample ballots to show people what the different envelopes were, and it would be online where everyone could see it and could access it at 2 in the morning or, 4 o'clock in the afternoon without making a phone call to your staff. And you would write it up once.
And that would have to be an action by the commission, and they do that in their minutes now. There are issues come up from time to time that they address, and it's posted in their minutes. And this issue that you mentioned, I don't know if that was on the agenda, but the commission wanted to consider it and make it a policy. They could do it. But the only way you could have a policy that would be posted would be if the commission approved it at an open meeting regarding absentees or regarding any part of the.
Maybe I'm not describing this well enough. It's a best practice. It's a best practice to make it easier for the voter to understand how they go about voting. And it should lessen the workload after some initial work's done. It should lessen the workload on the commission and the staff both.
Does the council have this type of process in place?
I do, personally, I do stuff that tries to make it easier, and I create documents that make it easier for my constituents, and I'm working on putting that on my website.
The question would be, does the council as a whole have it? If the council has that system, we'd be happy to look at it. And
We have Legistars, so we have video minutes, and the agenda, by agenda item is broke out by Ms. Shelley, then the meeting notes, then each piece of legislation, the respective amendments that are made to it, and I don't find that the election stuff is that descriptive.
Just
So-
for clarification, we do not have a question and answer section on Legistar. And I think that's what you were asking about.
So I don't know what would be the best practice, because we put all of our contact information, we would not have the same apples to apples, but we have a ton of descriptive information, and we have a ton of our information about our actual work that's done online, and that's not the same for the election commission. So going on to try to dig through the way the notes are formatted, and from what I recall, online, you're not searchable, if I recall correctly, maybe it is now, but it would make it very labor intensive to go find out what I think are pretty straightforward questions about how to do the process. Like, for example, you can go to the registrar's website or webpage on Cherokee.org, and they have an FAQ, Q&A. So they have frequently asked questions concerning Cherokee citizenship, and it's a different way to explain the same form, the same laws that we all know, because we work it every day. But if general Cherokee citizen comes up, or potential citizen, they may not understand. So they have to have it framed a different way. And that is on Cherokee.org for the registrar's website as a sample. Because I think that's what the Carter Commission tasked us with, was not just registering voters, but making it easier for Cherokees to vote and make sure that their vote counts. And I thought that was very clear in the report. But this is either something that's adopted as a best practice or it isn't. That's up to you guys. I just want to throw out the idea because that is the feedback I get from my constituents and other constituents. So
What's the most frequent question you get asked about voting, being able to vote?
I think people don't understand what you first brought up about that their blue card or citizenship is not a voting card, that you are an independent election commission, you're not the state of Oklahoma or some other election commission. Citizenship does not equal voting. I mean, those are some very first, best practices I would put out if I had a frequent question answer. Some of those misleading things that we know about, and making sure that folks kind of are deterred from those misunderstandings, I think.
We put it out at every community meeting that we have that the blue card is not a voter registration card. We do that every community meeting we go to, and explain it to them there. And as far as on the computer, I don't know, because I don't know how to work a computer if I had to, so I don't know about that.
And I appreciate that, Commissioner Horton, but communication is a multi-layered onion, or so to speak, and It requires folks that don't access a computer, folks that never get a card from us about those photo IDs, and people that are very far away, that may be one person in a state or city that are trying to figure out how to vote, and they would go online, whether it's at their home or their public library. And right now, unless they want to read like a 45-page, very stale election law, and they're not an attorney, how are they going to understand what they need to do to vote, and they live in Wyoming or somewhere? I just think it's a big opportunity to make it easier for our Cherokee voters. The other questions I have is the process itself. So to Councilwoman Coates' questions, first of all, I want to say I really appreciate Connie and the staff person, and he hasn't been there long enough. Jared? Joseph. So they have been great about helping me and also giving me feedback that I needed when forms weren't correctly filled out or something, because I was taking from other people trying to get it turned in, and I appreciate that. They've been great, and I want you to know that. There are a number of questions that are about to come down the pike from folks. People are sending me, and I'm trying to compile them so it's not one every week or 5 every week or whatever. I want it to try to be a one big whack of questions and get it over with. So I'm concerned because we do have a lot of people that seem to think that whatever happens, the election, pieces of mail never get to the Election Commission. And I don't know how to resolve this. I think to Councilman Coates' concern. The voter registration forms don't appear to ever get there, so they'll never get your postcard acknowledging them. So I don't know if there's a way around that. What I've suggested is people is to email it. But then that also takes a follow-up form on the original, is that not correct? If they scan and email it? Because we had lots of faxes disappear in 2011 too that never got in. And I don't know how it could have been on any end. I don't know that there's anyone to blame, but at the end of the day, we're trying to look for an opportunity not to inundate the Election Commission, where it puts us beyond capacity, but a legitimate way that is something you offer, that is how does the voter track every step of the way to be assured that they are a registered voter and a voter that counts when it comes to their vote. I think that's what people are looking for, is what that process could be that you would offer, so that, I mean, they'll call, they'll email, but again, you have a staff shortage. Everyone recognizes that. How do we possibly set something up that avoids inundating the staff to where it shuts down the office and people are just trying to make sure they count? Do you think that's probably about right?
Well, like I said, if somebody sends something in and we don't get it, we don't know where it got lost at. We don't even know whether they sent it in or not. I mean, how do we know that somebody tried to send something in and we didn't get it in the mail? And if I sent you a letter and you didn't receive it, how would you know whether I wrote you a letter or not?
I understand that, and I appreciate that.
I mean, I don't understand how we're gonna track something we don't even know it's been sent. How do you track something, you know?
That's fine. If it's just a manual process and people have to call and email and do extra stuff, then we'll do that.
Why don't you let us get our staff set in place, and then you can ask that question, and then maybe we can solve that when we got plenty of personnel to take care of it. We can't take care of it right now because we've only got one person and they're leaving Friday. And we just have Ms. Parnell. And she's to run she's doing a dual job. She's not supposed, we didn't hire her to run the office, we hired her to run the elections, but she's having to do both right now. So she has really been tasked.
Yeah, and Counselor Watts, you can make recommendations on paper and share it with these election
If they're
commission.
going to be here to answer stuff, I will be
Yeah.
doing that. That's
Yeah.
helpful. Thank you.
Yes,
I had one
and
last
just-
question.
Yeah, go ahead and make those recommendations, and Ryan, if you want to share with us, you can, because rest of council members, you can do the same, because we have the responsibility of sharing this kind of information out in communities ourselves. It's not just the election commission. You know, I have frequent community meetings that I share this type of information. A lot of my constituents, they don't email, some do, but most of them don't. So it is our responsibility as council members to make the election process, you know, try to get as many people out registered to vote. You know, that's their right, but we have a responsibility as well on our end Now, go ahead and finish your question,
And I actually
Council.
have two. So the first question is, do you happen to have a number on how many of those 61,069 are bad addresses?
Probably not.
I don't think there'd be bad addresses if the registered vote. All we gotta do is we gotta take the address that they give us. We don't know if it's bad or not until we send something out to them and
I
it comes
know
back.
when I bought the election data, it does designate that it's a bad address in your data, the raw data that you send. So is that something we could get, is the number of bad addresses out of those 61,069?
Sure, I think so. He doesn't have
Because I
that.
believe the link.
He doesn't have that information here.
Okay, the link has been disconnected, where people could search their name to see if it was bad addresses. That link is no longer available on the website. Will that, I don't know if that was intentional or not. Will it be returned at any point, or?
I didn't know.
Could we check in,
Sure,
could you
I
check
think
in that
that's
and let us know? And then the last question I had was, so to Councilman Coates' questions, the at-large will, in the 2015 election, they will not be mailed any kind of voter card. Is that correct? If they're registered at-large, they will not be acknowledged because they have, quote, no precinct? So they won't be mailed a voter card to say, you can request an absentee ballot because you have no precinct and here's the deadlines and here's how? There's nothing they'll be given.
I don't know that that's been decided by the council, or by the commissioners yet.
Well, originally, when I started originally, what I recall, the election code, the law says all voters shall be mailed a voter card. Doesn't say some, at random, who we like, who we don't, whether they're at large, in district, or anything else. It says shall. And during the 2011 election, only some. And that's not your election commission, I get that. I understand it wasn't, I'm not talking about the body and the decision of the body, not reflective of any one individual. So for whatever reason, I guess money's been brought up here, which concerns me because government has an inherent cost, especially elections, which are critical. So I think the law says shall, but what we found is, we're gonna need an opinion, is that they should, everyone, and that those at-large would be informed of the process for an absentee. Now, that doesn't say in the law that it has to be. It says they shall be mailed a voter card. But the voter card wasn't always clear about, you don't have a precinct and you will have to request an absentee ballot if you want to participate, and here's the deadline. That would be ideal if we want to engage our voters and actually have them vote.
I don't know that, that has not come before the commission for this coming election as to how they're going to handle that. It'll be a policy decision they will have to make.
That's all my questions. Thank you.
And I will be happy to research
Okay.
the law and advise them what they.
Any more questions for Election Commission?
Thank you.
Councilor Garvin?
Yes, thank you. I appreciate you coming today. I know it's a long ways from Gans and it's down close to Hanson.
Often.
But I want to talk about some signatures. I know some people have a fancy signature, scribble. When they register,
Go ahead.
that's what she gets through. When they register, they have a signature. When they request an absentee ballot, they have a signature. And when they vote, they have a signature. How do you go about lining up all three of those? I know some of them won't look alike, and some will be different, and some will be changed, but what's the procedure when somebody brings a bucket full, say 100 absentee ballots in? Do they look at those signatures? I know in the previous election, they bring them in right to the last minute, and I know you're shorthanded and everything. Kind of what's the procedure? Say somebody brought in 100 absentee ballots in a bucket.
I think I know what you're talking about, and you're talking about, and that's in the last election, but we went to court, if you'll remember, over that. And they more or less told the election commission that we were not signature authorized to make signature, be an expert on whose signature is whose. So they more or less told us if they signed, we gotta take it.
Regardless
Isn't that
of
the way they told us?
Yeah, the issues were over some notarizations, and basically the court said if it's notarized, then the signature will be accepted as a valid signature.
even though the three signatures don't even look alike.
That was the case in the court case.
Okay, thank you,
Good.
Mr. Chairman.
Speaker?
Yes, I think you know that today we're going to discuss a change in the election laws. And I believe it's been previously sent to the election board. And it was, I believe the only change was on what I'm calling page 28 in our book. And it deals with absentee ballots and the method by which they're notarized. Can you all give us, shed some light on the need for this or the non-need for it? I understand that you have made some policy changes there that actually probably take care of this situation of the out-of-state voter that uses a, Harvey, what do we call it, a jurat
Jurat.
versus a acknowledgement.
I might explain. The issue arose because of California law. It apparently does not allow them to notarize an envelope, the outside of an envelope. They have to have a jurat that they put inside. The jurat is, got one there. It's basically the notary part of it.
Let me tell them something just before you go into that. When we send these, when we're gonna send out to the absentee voter, we'll send all of this in an outside envelope. They will get this return envelope stamped to return their ballot in. They will have this secret envelope, and they will have their ballot. Let's say this is the ballot. This ballot goes into this secret envelope, and it's sealed up. Then this jurat goes, and we made this for the state of California. There's 3 different types of jurats here for somebody that's handicapped, and they go get it done by a notary public that they are a person for this person, and there's 3 of them there that they can choose from how they do it.
Now, Mr.
And then
Horton,
this goes,
Mr. Horton, does the voter sign that form?
yes, the voter or the person,
Does the voter actually put his signature on that form?
No.
Or is it the notary?
it's the notary.
So now we have this form that's done by a notary, and then we have a signature on the outer envelope, the envelope that's got the acknowledgement form on it.
Right. And California will not notarize outside of an envelope. That's why you gotta have the jurat. So your ballot goes into this secret envelope. The jurat does not. It goes with this into the return envelope and is sent back to us. That way nobody can see who has notarized it or anything till we open up the envelope and get the jurat out to see that it is legally notarized.
And my question is this, how do we know that the person that's going in front of that notary actually signed in front of that notary?
I guess we have to take a notary's word.
No, if I may, I've got the forms
And I've got the forms too.
from the California Notary Handbook. Well,
So,
then you know that the form swears that the person, that the notary watched
Is
the
who-
person's signature
is
and has checked their
no,
identification.
what it says is the person swearing that he is that person. It's not, I can't find where it says that person that is signing is signing right there in front of him.
On page 12 of the California Notary Handbook, it says the jurat is used when the
It
notary.
doesn't say that on the form though, Julia.
it says what the notary is required is that the signer personally appeared before the notary public, that the signer signed the document in the presence of the notary public.
That's the
That
instructions.
the notary public administered the oath of office as to the identity of the signer. So the notary must do all of that before they can place their seal on the jurat that goes inside the ballot.
That is the instructions, but that's not what the jurat says.
That's splitting hairs. Notaries, if they're going to follow the law, that's what they must do before they can
my
notarize
concern is
this
this.
affidavit.
That form doesn't have the signature of the person that's voting on it. So what's to
But
say
the
that we
envelope
don't get a
does.
bunch of those signed, and then they just take 100 of them to the notary, and the notary's not an honest person. We have some of them that are not honest, and they just sign 100 of those deals, and they stuff the envelope. We don't know that when it gets down here, do we?
The commission don't know it either. No, nobody knows it.
Okay, that was, now, but I want to know, you all apparently think you've taken care of this problem that she's asking us to look at today.
We think.
Okay, so you already have policy in place that's allowing this. So why do we need the law? Because you've already took care of the problem. I'm
We
just
think we
throwing that out. Okay, all right, this
We
one.
hope we have.
Okay.
I mean, there's not anything to keep anybody from being crooked. We know that. From local politics to the upper politics, you know, so,
Thank you.
we're doing our best and,
And this is just an additional question.
Yeah.
Is there a limitation for the notaries in California on how many they sign like there is in Oklahoma?
I don't know. We'd have to ask Ms. Parnell on that.
Point of information, the state of Oklahoma law does not apply to tribal laws per the Secretary of State of Oklahoma. If you need a copy of that email, let me know.
Well, but that doesn't have anything to do with the California notaries. The question was, is there a limitation on how many of the California notaries can sign in any given election? And we don't know that answer, I guess.
I wouldn't have any idea.
Yeah. I want to thank you guys for your report and being here today. Is actually, we talked about the Carter report. Chief of Staff Chuck Hoskins Sr. and myself made that trip to talk to former President Jimmy Carter and asked him to give us some recommendations how we can improve our election laws. We are improving on our election laws, and you guys are doing a good job with the staff that you have. We still got some improvements to make.
Well, I thank you.
But it is a thankless job, Mr. Horton.
Well, it's
and-
kind of like being on the water board, you know.
Yes.
Nobody cares if you're on the water board. When you're out of water, you get a cussing.
Yeah, that's right. Well, us council members, we're a little derelict in what we're supposed to be doing as well. We're supposed to be working together and getting information out. So we need to do a little better job on what we do out in our communities.
And
So
I think we're doing a better job of going to the communities and working with the communities and letting them see the commission, because different commissioners goes out and we tell them, call in. If you've got a question, just call us. We'll answer your questions, you know. But if they don't call us, we don't know what kind of problem they got. If they don't contact us, we don't know what kind of problem they got, so.
Right. Speaker, you got?
Yes, Chairperson Byrd, they are short-staffed, and is there a need for them to come every month, or can we put them on a quarterly? They'll send a written report in every month, as they've been doing, but is there a need for them to come any more than quarterly at this point in time?
I don't see why you would. You can do a quarterly report, or if I need to talk to you about something, I'll come to your office.
I know you will.
Okay?
I mean, that's what we're doing.
That's right. And if you need to talk to me about something, you know where you can get hold of me.
I would
Just-
ask that their physical presence only be on maybe a quarterly basis and let them get their business done and to send, they've been very good about sending us.
It don't
I don't think
bother
we
me to
need-
come before the council and talk to you at all. It's just that, you know, I can't answer every question if I could, you know.
Well, I kind
I'd
of
be
mind you
making a lot
coming
more money
because
than
you're
what I
getting
am right
into
now.
my business of other reports I want to hear. Okay? And I do mind. Because I like to get my meetings over with and let everybody have their 15, 25 minutes, 30 minutes, give a report. And you're taking up an hour and 15 minutes of my time.
I'm long-winded.
Yes, you are. But everybody else is too. Counselor Coates.
Well, the Election Commission has not been in front of us for 4, 5, 6 months, and I would suggest that if they were here every month, it would not take an hour and 15 minutes. It would actually only take, 10, 15 minutes each time. So I think that they really do need to be here every month, because obviously the questions that we have piled up significantly to the point where, and it's not staff that comes here, it's the commission themselves. And if, if we could take 10 to 15 minutes each month rather than an hour every quarter, that would actually be much more efficient for them, I think. It would be more efficient for us and for you in terms of conducting this meeting, because I agree, it shouldn't be an hour talking to the election commission, but when they're not here on a regular basis.
But I doubt if we'll do it in 15 minutes as well. I haven't chaired a meeting yet that's lasted 15 minutes. But anyway, we're going to let you guys go. And if you have any more questions, you can go to the election commission, ask in writing, make recommendations. Thank you for your report.
So we asked that you had suggested we submit questions in writing and they'd be able to answer. So I will, if I submit them for next month, I have to wait till 3 months from now?
There's the election commission. I mean, if I ask, I'll.
Okay.
They respond to any citizen's request in reasonable time.
But I think it was in reference to public record and best practices, so access for regular citizens to be able to do it. And you suggested that rather than an FAQ page, it would be this forum, but waiting every 3 months would prevent that forum from being effective and a best practice.
Okay. Thank you.
You'd have to talk to Ms. Parnell about that, because I couldn't respond to it. Be accurate.
I would simply say that everybody understand the election commission is here out of courtesy to this council. There's nothing that requires them to be here, and the council cannot request, direct, or influence the commission in any way. Their job is to form and conduct a fair election, free from influence, credible, and to encourage as many voters to participate as possible. And this commission is dedicated to that. They are truly independent. And I think that previous elections, you've seen that. I think you'll see it in the next election.
Thank you, Harvey. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
As, Mr. Horton, as a courtesy, Mr. Chafin, as a courtesy, would you all consent to appearing in the next, maybe 3 months from now? Would that be all right?
Fine with me.
Okay. We'll see you back then.
Thank you.
Anybody here from Marshal Service? It's not Shannon Buell, but
Good morning.
morning.
Came to see if you had any questions for Shannon. He is in training this morning. He has a multi-jurisdictional SWAT training he is doing today for Rogers, Mays, Muskogee counties, and the FBI. So he wasn't able to be here.
I want to commend you for the little open house that you had last month. Very informative on the different levels of responsibility that you guys have to deal with. And we really should be thankful for having such an outstanding law enforcement right here in the Cherokee Nation. Councilor Watts.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Hi.
So I've been trying to, or me and another person have been trying to track down Marshall Buell because we need something served from one citizen on another. So will he be available after today, or?
He's in training all week, so
All week.
all I can do is I can relay your message.
Okay, is there someone maybe?
Ask a question, Steve.
In terms of the marshal service kind of thing? Who's this?
It would be Danny Tanner.
Okay, we can find Mr. Tanner then. Thank you. Oh, and thanks for the great outing over there a couple of weeks, or a month ago, whatever that was.
Okay. Councilor Garvin.
Mr. Chairman, I want to thank you for the good dinner we had last time, and just curiosity, these yellow pine cones out here on the street, what purpose do they serve? There seemed to be a reason why they're there, but my question is, why are they there?
I guess I'm not aware of pine cones that are out.
Well, it's not a pine cone, it's a yellow cone.
Pylon?
Don, I think I can answer that. That was a courtesy to us to make sure that we had a parking place when we came to the meetings. They're only out there during the meetings.
Oh, it's for reserve parking.
Yeah, those little orange things, that was to make sure the council could get up to the building where the meeting place was.
So that's reserved for the council?
It is until we all get parked, and then I think you can park anywhere you want to. But I think it's gonna take care of itself because they're doing some shifting in the building. And I think when that shift is done, there'll be more parking spaces.
I see them out there all the time, I was curious.
Yeah.
There must be security marking.
It's hard to park when they're there.
Well, that's so you do have a parking space. But if you want us to remove them, we'll do that, and you can go park
I just
on
wondered why they're
up by
there.
Sequoia School.
It's just so we could have.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. Thank you for your report. Haven't seen this gentleman in a while, Attorney General.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and it's my pleasure to appear before this committee for the next hour and 15 minutes.
It won't be that long.
It's been a short period of time since I appeared before you last. We'll just remind everyone that July 25th is the date for the United Katua Band hearing on the merits in the Eastern District or Northern District of Oklahoma before Judge Frizzell. I believe it is at 10 o'clock, but we will make sure that a notice goes out to all councilors and posted on our website for anyone who wishes to attend. We are still awaiting a decision on the Friedman case that was argued before Judge Hogan in the District of Columbia approximately a little more than a month ago. Hunting and fishing negotiations continue to go forward and fruitful. We have concluded the contract support cost negotiations. We've reached an agreement in principle. A judgment or settlement in that of that magnitude will need to be approved by the United States Attorney General's office. Upon that approval, we will make an announcement. But it is significant. Also, if I would go on forward with the codification.
Yes, go ahead.
Something tangible to put forward, to pass around. We have received all the questions back from West. We are answering those. They have sent us a mock-up of the volume. If there's any suggestions as to how the cover should appear, please get that in to us as soon as possible. You'll notice that the color is the orange color of the flag of the Cherokee Nation.
OSU?
The color of the Cherokee Nation flag, if you want to change it, I guess we could.
That's OSU orange.
OSU orange. No, we wanted it to be distinct. Everyone has red, everyone has blue, we've had green. Our flag is orange. And that was determined upon the reformation of the Cherokee Nation from the existence of the 1839 Cherokee Nation. That's our flag. That's our color. We've made that. And, if it's white, you should do a resolution to change it. But that is the flag of the Cherokee Nation that we have in front of us. So with that being said, we're proud of it. It's yet another step closer, and I'm happy about it. And as soon as we get there, we get it.
It'll work.
I'll entertain any questions.
Love it.
Yes, Councilor Buzzer.
Todd, what seems to be, what's the negotiation point, or what is the holdup on our hunting and fishing?
Well, the holdup is, this is something that's been negotiated for or been talked about for the last 20 years, forever. We have made it a priority issue in the Cherokee, in my office, to resolve it. We like to get things done. So we are, everything's on the table. We start with the premise that our treaty rights are significant and are clear. We believe the Oklahoma Enabling Act says that the state of Oklahoma can form a state of the union, but they cannot do any act detrimental to the rights of the Native Americans. We believe the Oklahoma Constitution also inures to our benefit in this regard. So so that's where we start off. The state of Oklahoma obviously believes that the fish and game within the state are properties of their sovereign, that they have the right to license all citizens of the state of Oklahoma, to which Cherokees are part of. So they have their legal position, I have my legal position. And if we can reach an agreement to satisfy everyone's concerns, we're going to try. But it really is a monumental task. And
So basically, now we can hunt on any interference from the state of Oklahoma.
right.
And then I think that fishing has never been tested in court, as far as I know, yet.
That is correct.
Say that again, Counselor Buzzards. We can hunt on our land?
We can hunt on land that's owned by the Cherokee Nation. Although there's a question of whether we can take game off of it, and
Okay.
So, that might be a legal challenge.
Okay.
But those are the some of the issues that we got to work through. Who are going to be, the Cherokee Nation would have their own game wardens. Would we cross deputize with other game wardens? What. We believe we own the resource is ours, so we have a right to, so we have a responsibility to manage that resource, both in hunting and fishing. So these are very complex issues that we began to discuss.
Thanks very much. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Speaker?
Todd, what is our agreement with West on update on pocket parts, or do we have?
Yeah, it will be a continuing. It will be a continuing maintenance of the code, and that's what led to this problem. Is that we did not back in '94, '95, or I can't remember when the last update pocket part was on. We just stopped it. We're not going to stop it this time. We're going to maintain that.
Is that going to be yearly?
It'd be at least yearly. Now, there will be an online that we will, with that version that we will update more regularly than that.
We don't know what the charge will be.
I don't know the details of it. I just know that it's important to do, and we're going to do it.
And we have committed to so many sets. I think it was 200, wasn't it?
I believe so, but don't hold me to it. I'd have to review. It's been a while since I reviewed the
Within
contract.
that commitment, I think we provided for a set for each council member.
You hold the purse strings, and if we want to dedicate them to
Well, that's something that you all need to think
Yeah.
about. We have a commitment to buy so many, the whole nation. And within that commitment, we'll need to decide as a body, do each of you want a set? I would think each of you need a set. But I need to hear from you all, and I guess that could be informally. You could tell me what your thoughts are. I think we have it within the budget. It's bigger than $20 though, so I want to get your thoughts on it. But we're close. We're close at this point. They haven't printed the actual book yet because they're still working a few bugs out.
They're going to get, we need the approval on that. And there are a very few amount of, what we will do, we will answer those questions that they had back. Because when the ball's in our court, we move real quick. And then hopefully if they have any more questions after that, I don't think they will, but we'll see. But we're very, very close.
You had the seal on the front of that book too, right?
Pardon me?
You got the seal on the front of the book?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right. Okay. Thank you. I know it's been quite an endeavor. And honestly, publishing a code like that is a thing of the past anymore. I mean, the state of Oklahoma doesn't even do it. The state of Oklahoma has moved the official site to the Supreme Court site. So it's becoming a thing of the past, but.
And being aware of that, we will have an online version that we will keep updated more than annually.
Well, you know as well as I do, the state of Oklahoma has actually designated.
You're absolutely right.
They moved away from West Publishing and actually designated the Supreme Court site as the official site to look up law. Nobody even buys state of Oklahoma books anymore. I bet you can't go to a law office in town, probably in the state, and find an actual up-to-date hard copy of the Oklahoma law. I could be wrong, but I really wonder how many is really doing that now.
Good.
Thank you.
Counselor Snell?
Oh, I was going to comment about the hunting and fishing. Like I asked the game ranger a couple years ago about hunting on our property, Cherokee property. He said, yeah, you can hunt and they can kill all deer you want to kill. When you take them off the property and leave here with them, I'm going to arrest you. So what do we do? Back, somebody's wanting to try that law out one time, I think when previous administration, and I suggested to the chief, we'll go kill a deer and let's find out.
Well, I tell you what, I mean, this is one thing is that, is that hopefully we won't have to find out. Hopefully I can make an agreement and put it before this council. But this is a commitment I've already made to the state of Oklahoma, that we won't have to search for a test case if we can. I'm going to go down Little Leagues Creek. I'm going to start fishing until somebody arrests me.
I want to go with you.
And then by golly, we'll see what happens. And that's the way we'll.
Well, I might try the deer hunting deal out.
I'd rather fish.
Okay, well, we commend you for your effort in that, AG, and I hope that moves expeditiously.
Are there any further questions?
Councilor Buzzer?
Just real quick, I've heard about the railroads, abandoned railroads. Is there a law that it comes back to the tribes in Oklahoma? If there is, can you give me or send me a link to that?
There is, and I will have one of my staff or someone from Realty send you a memorandum as to what that is.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next report. Tax Commission. Aaron Swepston.
Morning.
Morning.
I think you all received my report. I'll try to answer any questions that you might have on that. Just as some FYI to the council, we did start selling at-large tags to our Oklahoma Cherokee citizens on Monday, the 9th. Through yesterday, we had sold 35 tags, totaling $13,311.81. I also apologize for getting your expanded jurisdictional report out a little late. I was gone all last week on vacation with my family, so I didn't get that out until yesterday. I hope you all received that report. If you would like, I can send out something similar to that on the at-large for the state of Oklahoma if you'd like to see something similar to that report. Okay, and I'll just email that to you also.
Good job, Sharon. Good report.
Thank you.
Self-governance. Big Candy.
I believe you have my report before you, but one update that AG Hembry mentioned was the contract support cost settlement. We have spent a tremendous amount of time and effort to work on that settlement. Spent some long nights in the office working on it, and I would like to publicly thank a few people who were instrumental in assisting with that. One is Clint Hastings, who is on my staff, that worked to pull records together, some historical records. In some situations, with some of the questions that were asked, we went back into some records into the 90s. So, also, Rick Kelly with the Health Department provided some history in regards to the previous contract support cost cases and settlements that we've had in the past. Amy Sams provided some research on health financial records, as well as some of the questions regarding health operations and what we do within the health department. Connie Chandler, who is in the finance department, she actually prepares the IDC proposals, and she was available to answer questions in regards to the details of how she puts that proposal together. And a group of us worked to put a lot of information together, answer questions, but when it comes down to the actual settlement, we had a tremendous legal team in Lloyd Miller and some of the experts that he has. But one thing that I wanted to add was in regards to A.D. Hembry. I'll brag on him for just a few minutes. In the heat of the discussion, there was something that Todd said that really stood out to me, and I think it speaks of the way that we approach settlements and financial situations with the federal government, opposed to how those with the Department of Justice or Indian Health Service Solicitor's Office approach things. And the DOJ attorney had made a comment about, this is not personal to us. And Todd spoke up and said, well, excuse me, but it is personal to us. I know his mother is in hospice care currently. I just lost my father-in-law while we were in negotiations, who was in hospice care. So it is personal to us. It is providing additional dollars to provide health care to our friends, our family, our community. And so when we get into these discussions, it is important to, and we do take it personal, because it is personal. And Todd would probably never share that with you, but I wanted to say that because we put a lot of work and sweat into it, but when it come down to actually settlement, Todd took the lead on that, and I was very proud of the work that he did. I will say this, that we did as well or slightly better, than I believe, than most tribes did within these settlement discussions. So I'll not share the details with you, but I will say that we fared slightly better or as well as other tribes. We also keep in mind that this settlement is for past years. I've mentioned to the council that now, in the light of full funding of contract support cost, we can look from this point forward in full funding. Now, what that means for Indian Health Service versus DOI is a little bit different, but we may be fully funded contract support cost, but Congress did not appropriate additional money. So they're having to take it out of their other appropriations. We do have a meeting set up with the Oklahoma City area office to go over our numbers and look at full funding for Cherokee Nation from 2014, the current year that we're in, and forward. And I've set that up for July the 7th to sit down and work on the current situation with full funding for Cherokee Nation. We continue to have national consultation meetings where the Department of Interior and Indian Health Service have been given a directive by Congress to consult with tribes on recommendations for moving forward. And we've been requested to participate in those consultation sessions and making recommendations, which will ultimately go back to Congress. So that's my update, and you have my report, and I'll be glad to answer any questions that you may have.
Councilor Buzzer.
Vicki, just going back and listening to your report, and I appreciate the fact that it is personal, so Cherokee people and the Indian people. So thank you, Todd, for bringing that to their attention. And I know those people, that's just a job for them. For us, it's a job. For me, especially, I'm glad to hear you say that Todd made this statement. But I want to just go back and just ask, I guess. I know through DOI that some of our programs don't get any administrative costs. Is that going to be addressed, or have we addressed it? I know now we take those costs from our construction costs to administer those programs. And is there any chance of us ever getting those administrative costs from DOI or Bureau?
Well, if you're referring to the roads funding,
That one,
that's
yeah,
one
and then
of
what-
those.
And then the other programs that we've got from DOI, did we get administrative costs for those? Like realty and some of the other?
Yes, those are included within the compact. There's certain funding that flows through our compact that, such as roads, which is actually Department of Transportation. Well, we negotiated directly with Department of Transportation. So roads no longer comes through our DOI compact. It's a separate agreement. However, those funds we do not get additional administrative dollars for. However, pretty much the only way to address that would be through the reauthorization and changing the law. Right. And it's not just that Cherokee Nation and no one receives those funds, and it's the only way to address it would be through the reauthorization of the Indian Reservation roads funding.
And I guess that's fine, as long as we get the administration can be taken out of construction costs, that's fine, as long as we get an increase in construction costs. So it doesn't, I guess it's a wash, really.
Some of the other funding, such as our 477 programs, which is, for us, is childcare, and then also the Workforce Investment Act funds, which comes through career services to administer those 477 programs. Another that we have taken up is the tribally operated schools, such as Sequoia High School. It's kind of hard to explain, but the Indian schools get a administrative cost fee. There's and it's a formula that they come up with. It's not specifically related to indirect cost, but it's a separate formula for those funds. We have raised that issue with Department of Interior, that if we're looking at full funding, is there a way that those Bureau of Indian Education schools could get full funding. That's been addressed as some of the recommendations that have been made. There, a couple of years ago, the agency had even told the schools that they couldn't take those dollars, pay the full amount out of their other education dollars. They've reversed that, I want to say last year. But nonetheless, the schools are not getting full reimbursement, if you will. So that is one of the things that have been recommended, and we're trying to address that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Good report. Gaming Commission, Jamie Hummingbird.
Still in the gut?
Bill.
Raise it. Almost done. I believe my report actually made it into the booklets this month. I apologize for last month. I got it in about a day or so late by accident. I thought I'd sent it in, but I had a lapse in memory, I suppose. I apologize for that. If you have any questions on the report, I'd be glad to answer those. And just have one item to briefly update you on, and that is the Bay Mills case. I think we talked about it the last time I was here. It has since been handed down by the Supreme Court that the state of Michigan did not have a proper suit and actually reversed all the decisions before and sided on the side of Bay Mills. That is a good thing for Indian country. We were all sweating the outcome of that particular case, but I think that is one fight in a much longer war that we have left to go in terms of actions pending on land into trust and gaming issues. We still have the Big Lagoon case out of California that's still in the courts, and we also have the looming Carcieri fix that is still floating around the D.C. area. So we still have a couple of big tasks ahead of us, but we did win one, which I think all of Indian country was happy to see that case come down the way it did. Lastly, I have some responses to some questions that Councilmember Fishinghawk raised during the Rules Committee meeting in April 24th. I apologize, I was not here for that. I was attending the International Masters of Gaming Law Conference in San Diego at the time. But my staff was present and brought down the questions. I've since provided some written reports, but in the interest of time, I'll just hand those to Shelley and she can distribute them out a little bit later.
Thank you, Jamie.
Okay, thank you.
I got a question.
Councilor Buzzer.
With this Bay Mills case, Jamie, do you think it would affect, or does it affect tribal nations from gaming in other states? What I'm saying, could a tribe put trust in land in another state that they're not presently located?
I think it could have an impact, but the actual application of it would be really dependent upon the circumstances. Case in point that we have right now is the Fort Sill Apaches. They have land on both Oklahoma and New Mexico side. And as far as I know, they are still negotiating in good faith with the state of New Mexico for a facility over there if they can get land into trust. And at this point, I think the state is supportive of that move. If they have a historical nexus or if they have some previous tie to that land, I think that's something that's also taken into consideration. But I think it really just depends on the actual circumstances of that. Now, if we were to try to go back to Georgia and do something, I don't think we could do it.
Thank you.
Councilor Thornton.
I understand what you're talking about there, Jamie, but the thing that like the deal that's happened up there in Tulsa County.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's one tribe encroaching on another tribe, isn't it?
Kelechi.
Yeah, the Kailigis. Yeah, and they enjoy a unique relationship with the Creek Nation. They are separately federally recognized as far as I can recall. The last list I saw had them as a recognized entity to receive services. But I think their relationship and the status of the land with respect to Creek Nation, I'm not sure if the overall Creek Nation is not responsible for it in some form or fashion. I'm not that familiar with their law, so I can't really say for certain. But you're all right. I mean, if the Choctaws had attempted to put Blue Ribbon Downs into trust while they owned that, then we would have a similar situation on our hands, and I think we would. I think we also already had that situation with UKB, and I think that is something else that is somewhat telling on how this case is going to be applied.
I need to ask you another question about, I've always thought about the old Cherokee Nation borderlines reached over into Arkansas.
Mm-hmm.
And would there be any way that the Cherokee Nation could encroach over to those across the border? Does this Bay Mills have any kind of effect on something of that nature?
Well, as I responded to Councilmember Buzzard, I think it would kind of depend on the actual circumstances on this. Since we are looking at the Fort Sills Apache trying to go into New Mexico, and they are meeting with favorable responses from the state, and they have a right to that property. If we were to go into Arkansas or try to go into Arkansas, I think it would be much of the same type of situation. Could we prove our historical ties to that property as it being a former part of the Cherokee Nation? What would the state have to say? Because the state would have a say in that as well, and if they oppose it, then I think that tells you right there exactly how big of a fight you're in for.
Yeah.
But it would all depend on the legal parameters, and I would have to defer to the AG's office to kind of sort through all the legalese and
Well, that's just something I've always thought about. I just wondered.
well, and the nation has had property. We have property in Chilocco. We've had property in Texas, and so I mean that question has been around for probably as long as I've been with the nation, and I don't know if ever settled on a final answer to it.
We actually have ancestral land there in Arkansas. Van Buren, Fort Smith goes all the way to Harrison. That was our old reservation when Oklahoma was still Indian territory.
Mm-hmm.
We probably have a stronger claim than most tribes going into other states. We did a study one time, and they were supporting about 70% wanting Indian gaming, but you got, West Memphis there that's already got dog track racing and so forth.
Right.
So that'd be an interesting task. We'll leave that to Attorney General to give us the go-ahead on that one.
I'll look forward to Todd's opinion.
Yes. Okay.
I read your audit that you sent out yesterday. I think it was yesterday. It looks good.
On the player tracking. And if you have any questions on those, feel free to send them our way. We'll be glad to answer them.
Okay. Thank you for your report, Jamie. Councilor Watts.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for that report. I found it interesting, the applicability of how you reviewed what appears maybe to some folks as HR functions, but whether or not the job descriptions match the gaming
license
and those kind of requirements. It seemed like that was part of the audit. Did I read that correctly? So-
Right. What we do in those instances, and when we look at a position to determine what classification it is going to be treated as far as licensure goes, we do look at the job descriptions. We don't approve necessarily the job description, but what we do look at is the responsibilities that they have underneath that job description. So if they have managerial, supervisory, responsibility for cash or assets, that tells us whether or not they're going to fall into an operational category or key or primary management official. So it's still up to C&E to determine what the job description says. We just look at it to see whether or not it's going to fall into one of those three buckets.
Well, it was very helpful to me to illustrate what the dialogue that seemed to be lacking and maybe some earlier discussions about how you operationally need some things that may not make sense on face value in a vacuum. So thank you for that. Now, you brought up the Carcieri fix.
Yeah.
And I remember the Indian Committee, I think, would it be on the Senate side?
Right.
They tweeted out that they had a meeting on that topic, or it came up in one of their committee meetings. Has there been movement on the Hill?
Not to my
I didn't
knowledge.
get a chance to watch, so.
Yeah, not to my knowledge. I haven't heard of any bill being offered up or any activity on what has been offered up.
Okay.
But if there is any activity, I've got some contacts in DC that keep me up to date, and so far I haven't gotten any updates from them, so, but if I do, I'll be sure to let you know.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Jamie. Appreciate you being here.
Good report, Jamie.
We've got one more.
Okay, Councilor Thornton.
Jamie, when you receive an application of anything, you check on it, you all don't give any license to someone that has a felony, do you?
Not necessarily. With the operational level licenses, those are not covered by the NIGC or the compact. Those are the positions that are not a good way to describe them, but frontline level employees that don't have access to cash, that don't have any gaming responsibilities or anything like. They still have restricted access to back of house areas, but they don't have any say-so over sensitive materials. Give you one example is housekeepers. We do license housekeepers, but if there is somebody that has had a felony conviction, and it's important to know a conviction, we follow the state of Oklahoma interpretation for conviction, meaning that it's been a guilty plea that's been resulting in either incarceration or a suspended sentence. If it's a deferred sentence and it's been reduced, we don't count that as a conviction. But if there is somebody that has had a felony in their past, the commission does look at that felony and when it was and what type of felony that it was. If I had a felony conviction last year for embezzlement, probably not good. If I had a felony 25 years ago for DUI, chances are better. So, I mean, it really just depends on what type of felony and when it was and where this person's working.
And if they spent any time in the penitentiary?
If they spend time in the penitentiary, we've actually had a couple of cases of those come up. One individual spent a year back in 1979, actually 18 months I think it was, and he was granted a EBS, a custodial type position. There's another one that had a 4-year incarceration. We've had a lot of people that have had incarcerations. Most of them did not get through. But the ones that did get licenses, and we have probably, I would say, less than a dozen at all properties over the years that we've licensed. But they're more or less in positions that would be deemed as non-sensitive, if you will. And I don't want to belittle any position. It's just that there are some positions that are a little bit more sensitive than others. But if they do meet the test and the commission looks at everything in their background, if that was the only thing that they had, or if they had a history of criminal activity, were they, what age were they at the time? Do they have a family? Do they have kids? Do they, have they been gainfully employed? All of these different things are taken into consideration before a determination's made. But like I said, last year, embezzlement, probably not going to get through.
Yeah. I know that by attending your meetings, that some of these people, when they fill out their applications, they won't put that they've been incarcerated on it. So then you have to go back through and maybe let them go and maybe not. So
Yeah, and that's
it's a tough job.
we run into quite a bit of challenges when people are less than forthcoming, and sometimes it's intentional. Sometimes they honestly forget. But it is something that the commission, we go through each individual one and we afford them as much time as needed. So we might spend 15, 20, 30 minutes on somebody, we might spend 5 on another. But yeah, it's something that's properly vetted.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie.
Sorry. Thank you very much.
Mr. Nason Morton? We'll take a little break after this report here.
I'll go quickly then. Good morning.
Morning. You have the report before you. Any questions for Mr. Morton? Any update you want to give us?
Yes, I have some updates. We're working with Career Services to help supplement some of the services we provide for people who are applying for jobs. We will help with the application process, give you helpful hints on how to negotiate the process to make sure your application's in on time, all your stuff's there, because really don't want you not to be considered because of a technicality. Want to make sure everything that you have, you've listed all your experience and all the requirements you have are actually in the application. And we also have 4 or 5 computers actually in HR, so if you don't have access to a computer, come on in, log on that one, use ours, and we'll help you with the process on that. But Career Services, we're talking to them about helping us with maybe your resume or interview skills or anything we can do to have the applicant to where they can put their best foot forward when they're applying for jobs. Make sure that there's really no stone unturned when they're applying for jobs. And so that's an ongoing process we're working on. Also, we had some discussion on the panels. And when you have a group of people who apply for a job, how we send you the people and what order we send them. And one question was raised is, for example, if you're a hiring manager and 50 qualified people apply for the position, if you decide you want to see all 50 applicants, you are then required to interview all 50 applicants, which can be a very time-consuming process. So the chief has authorized a pilot program we're going to work on for the next 4 months, where you still have the choice. If you choose to say, I want all the qualified Cherokee applicants, you still will send you those, and you can look at those. But if you say, I'd like to see everybody, we'll send you everybody. And then we'll work with you, go through the process, and help with the selection. And you can still interview everyone if you want to, but you're not absolutely required to. And so we're going to work on the process with the departments and ask for volunteers. We asked for volunteers this week, discussed it with the executive directors, and now we're going to talk to the hiring managers, and we're just going to see, and this is an area of concern that several people have raised, we're going to see if we can make this process work. And the goal with all the other ones is get the person on as quickly as possible and get you a qualified person into the job.
Speaker.
So that actually would probably delete a couple of steps. You wouldn't have a small group, reject those, call for more, small group, reject those, call for more. You could actually delete some steps, couldn't you?
Yes.
Which means that maybe we get people on a little quicker.
Yes, because it can be quite time-consuming to say, I want these. You go through that interview process, say, okay, send me the next batch.
That's exciting, because that may cut down on, we may not be looking at 7, 8 months to get somebody on. Maybe we get them on in month and a half, and they've not gone and found another job.
Yes.
That's good.
Now, we'll still probably have a couple of challenges that come up, because a plan is perfect till you try to apply it. So as soon as we get some input from the departments and get some, that's why we're trying it on a trial basis. If it works, we'll get the process down and we'll just go forward.
Good.
Have any questions?
Councilor Coates?
Thank you. Mr. Morton, would there be, in sort of streamlining this process in the way that you're describing, would there be a set of criteria developed along the, and exclusions would be done along those lines?
Yes, ma'am. And it would have to apply, it would have to follow Tarot as well. And so we're developing the criteria.
One of the discussions we were having about the contract versus regular or Cherokee Nation employee last night was, you know, about the concerns of people not being excluded on the basis of political agendas or something like that. And I would hope that that same principle, which I applaud, would, you know, would be applied here as well, that people are considered entirely on their qualifications. They're excluded entirely and only on maybe lack of qualifications. You know, that there was some set of criteria that would offer that same kind of protection. So that's the gist of my question.
We developed one to hopefully address the problem. Now we're going to actually apply it, and then we're going to keep track of who takes this option, track them through the time period, and during the time period, we're going to ask them, how's this working, how's this working? And then when we're done with this time period, we're going to see how effective it is.
Very good, thank you. Thank you.
Good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. This time, we're going to take a short recess here and break for lunch in 30 minutes. Be good. Before we do that, Counselor, make a motion to recess? We just do the recess?
Yes.
Okay, recess. You want to bless the meal? We got lunch waiting on us. We'll continue this rules meeting. I think we have a little bit more business to take care of, so we'll get back in session here. Shelley? We don't need to call a roll again, do we? We good? Okay. That was the end of our reports. And old business, none pending. New business, we have look like three resolutions. Legislative act we need to address. I want to thank the people that provided that lunch. That was a good lunch. Something we could identify with.
Give Buffalo.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it? Okay, at this time, new business. Turn that over to Councilor Coates and Councilor Baker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think that on further discussions are probably needed on this a little bit, so I'm going to move to table for 1 month.
Okay.
I will second.
Motion and a second to table. All in favor?
Aye.
By acclamation. We're good. Okay. Okay, next is, since Victoria's not here, Frankie, would you please take that?
Okay, this is a legislative act amending legislative act number 1011, making technical amendments to the Cherokee Nation Gaming Act, and I make a motion to approve that.
Have a motion? Second? Discussion? Councilor Watts?
Mr. Chairman, can we have someone explain what these technical amendments are and why?
Yes, we have the lady right in front of you.
These amendments are just to comply with NIGC rules that have been passed. The Gaming Commission has reviewed them and they agree that they're necessary. I have the actual regulations here and they just track through with the regulations. So most of them are just to conform with NIGC rules.
So Gaming Commission has blessed.
Yes, Jamie's here. But I've talked to them and I don't believe they have any issues with it.
Okay.
Would you like me to expand on that?
Sure.
The changes that are before you actually stem from a rulemaking that was done last year by the NIGC, wherein they modified, modified their licensing requirements. As a part of those revisions, they required, they made changes to two portions that we had to subsequently make to our regulations. One was in relation to the Privacy Act notices, and one was in notices against false statements. Tribes were given 6 months approximately to come into compliance with the new requirements, which we did. We modified our regulations accordingly, modified our applications, and we also had to get attestations from every licensee that they've been notified of the changes. So we did that starting last year, and we've been doing it ever since. So we are compliant with those regulatory changes. At the time that they published this, they also noted in there that existing gaming ordinances did not need to be modified to reflect the new language, but any new submissions, whether they be new ordinances or revisions to ordinances, had to contain the new language. So this language that is being does track along with what they published last year and is something that we have implemented and been in compliance with since approximately May of last year.
That's good. Yes, Councilor Thornton.
Jamie, they just came out with some new ordinances or changes or something?
No new ordinances. What they came out with was a model ordinance. It was what they suggest tribes consider modeling their ordinances off of, as far as the various provisions for background investigations, powers and duties, and appeals and things along that. So that's.
So that won't involve this act?
No.
These regulations were created in January of 2013. They became final. So the NIGC rules have been the rules for a while. This will just update our code to be in conformance with that.
Okay. Yes, Counselor Watts.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think we kind of heard a little bit about the process, and I think that's what you're referring to on NIGC requirements or laws or policy. So who drafted these amendments? What's the process? Like, who provided these, and then how do they go forward? Because I thought only after we look at them can they go to NIGC for approval. How does that work?
These will have, if these are passed by this body, then they'll be forwarded to NIGC for approval. So if this body passes it, that just gives us, I mean, it becomes the law, but it doesn't become effective until it's approved by NIGC. So this will have to be submitted to NIGC for their approval.
Okay, and who submits that? Is that the AG's office or the Gaming Commission? Who does that work?
I'm not sure in the past how we've,
Just someone on behalf of the Cherokee Nation. It could be the Gaming Commission, it could be the Attorney General's office, it could be the administration. It's important that it be delivered for consideration to.
I guess from a project management perspective, who will do that, and how long will it take?
I will do that as soon as if this council approves it at committee and the council approves it at full council. Once it's signed into law, we will deliver it to the National Gaming Commission.
Okay, and then who's the author of the amendments?
What do you mean, who wrote it? An attorney on our behalf.
Okay. Is that someone we've contracted
Yes.
with or something? Okay. Thank you.
Good.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you very much. Speaker?
Yes. This is to start discussion with this body on whether you want to think about a stipend for your telephone and internet service versus it coming through the tribe. We do primarily one carrier, AT&T. Sometimes we do Verizon, but some of you are having problems with both getting service. And it just seemed like a good time to take up the notion that you may want to be unhooked from the tribe, so to speak, and carry your own telephone and internet service from whatever carrier works best at your home or works best with your equipment. I don't have a figure in mind, so what I wanted to do was just place it on the agenda, get a discussion started to see if you're even interested in it. And if you are, then go out, talk to your providers, see what the cost is going to be for what you are receiving comparable now. And then come back next month and we talk some more.
Yes. Counselor?
I hadn't had much time to think about it, but I'm very happy with what I have. I'm sure maybe some of you don't have good reception or whatever, but mine's with Verizon. I love it. We have good reception down there. And if there's no hassle on my part, I don't like hassling with a phone company. And I would like to just leave it the way it is, but I'm agreeable to the majority.
And just food for thought, if we move, everybody has to move. If we stay, everybody has to stay. It's not pick and choose, if that makes sense to everyone. We can't have part of you on and part of you off. It will have to be what the majority wants to do. And it's, just discussion. I get good service with AT&T, but I know some of you are not getting good service. And we've struggled with this problem and struggled with what to do. And frankly, where some of you live, AT&T and Verizon is just not getting there. I don't know why. I don't know if they don't put towers in those areas or what the deal is. And I don't know how to fix that problem other than to let you seek your own. So that's why we're here today.
Counselor Watts?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Maybe it would be best if we had an actual proposal on the table to vote on and consider for next month.
I don't have a proposal formulated. I don't know an amount. I wanted you all to talk to your carriers if you're interested, because it's gonna really be dictated by what, the carrier says as to a price. Obviously, we're not gonna get it probably at the amount we get it for now, because that's like a huge, a huge box of people that are getting telephones and getting internet from the same carrier, and that makes a lot of difference between one getting it and 1,000 getting it. So we can't really use that figure, because if we use that figure, then no, you don't get what you got now. So I think this has to be, you look at the carrier that's most advantageous for your area, get a price, and then let's talk next month and see. I honestly, I don't have a dog in this fight. Either way is fine with me. Well, actually, the staff would tell you, you taking your own is gonna be much easier for them, but from my standpoint, I don't have a, I guess you could say I'm on the fence on this deal. If you can believe I'm on the fence on something, I'm probably on the fence on this deal. I just know some of you have been having problems, you've been struggling with it, and I want to do what gets you the information through internet the best you can.
Okay, Counselor Coates?
Yes, thank you. If I understand, we have contracts with both carriers right now, right? With
I believe we
Verizon
do.
and AT&T?
And they're the major carriers.
Right.
But there's all kinds of others that that may be working better in your area.
I live in Los Angeles, and both of them exist in Los Angeles, but believe it or not, there are patches in Los Angeles that are dead, especially at some times of the day, and I think it's maybe because of the towers being overloaded or whatever it is. And I guess my question is, if we don't go to doing this individually, and you have one carrier, is it possible to switch to the other one that we also have a contract with without any, that's not any real change to anything? Shelley's nodding her head back there. Which is
I would
fine.
assume that there's a method.
Yeah.
This would be a Gail question. I don't know where's Gail?
I've done mine.
Yeah, that's what I would think.
Because I think I've tried both.
Yeah.
Just from my own personal knowledge, at one point she had me on Verizon, then she had me on AT&T. AT&T works better in my little area because I'm kind of down in a low spot.
You're in Lost City area.
Well, yeah, and it's kind of funny over there.
So can we have, Gail, give us a little pros and cons of the current system that we're on this.
Because she's the one that has to deal with it all the time. It's mostly, it's Verizon.
I don't know what y'all were asking.
It's Verizon and AT&T.
I have to use Verizon because where I live, AT&T doesn't work. I get no emails, no phone service, nothing.
And
But
believe it or
Verizon
not,
works.
I'm
in a holler.
2 miles from me.
Yeah, from her.
And I
down
have
and
to
she's
use
up.
AT&T, which is the opposite. So, and
I
we're 2
am
miles
down.
apart. So,
But she's like, I'm in a holler.
I'm on
she's up here,
AT&T,
I'm
and
down.
it's noted. I mean, my roommate is as well, and she has the same issue, that there are just certain areas of the apartment it works, and other areas it doesn't. I mean, I
you
literally,
have to go hang out on the
I have to go
patio.
hang out on the deck. I can't talk in my office, because it's dead in my office, but the deck is good,
So,
I mean,
So who knows, but,
you will have to change your number because that's
Yeah.
an AT&T number.
Okay.
You can't take it with you.
okay.
You can only keep it if you're AT&T, if you stay with AT&T.
How do we pay the number portability tax
I
then?
think you can.
Well,
I
they
think you
wouldn't
can take
let,
your
they
number.
wouldn't let Meredith.
Yeah.
We
Number
tried
of
hard.
portability tax, that should
You
not
may
matter.
try. It may be because it's connected with the tribe and on a contract as a whole.
Well, but I understood
I don't
Cherokee
know.
Nation got us taking numbers, is that?
Well, I'm saying you can from the nation. I'm saying AT&T
Yeah, and then
Verizon
we
may not
can,
let
then we
you.
can from AT&T because there
So,
is a federal law
yeah.
that allows you to take your number with you.
Yeah. They wouldn't let, Verizon would not let Meredith take hers, so.
Well, and then that would just be my second comment, would be about, taking it after,
I can
because,
have Trish call and ask if it can be done, but when Meredith left, they wouldn't let her.
I think
She
one
had to
of,
switch it over to AT&T where she was at.
one of the things to maybe consider, and this is just a comment, in making this is that, a third to half of us are going to be leaving office next year. All of us are going to be leaving office at some point here, and many of us are going to be wanting to take these numbers with us when we go. And there might be more ease to doing it right now, going independently rather than trying to work all that out.
Yeah.
Is if your
Later.
phone breaks, you will have to take care of it yourself, take it to your provider. You won't bring it here because they won't touch a personal phone.
Can you get insurance on it?
You'll have to keep insurance with your stipend
And figure that in, that's $4 or $5
and you'll take care of
more.
everything at your provider. Cherokee Nation won't do anything with any of your equipment.
It's like $4 or $5 more, isn't it, insurance?
I think so. Was that what it was, Jody? Did you check on the insurance when you was
On the
checking?
insurance part, I did have kind of the check.
Yeah, he kind of
on
got
what
it
a
now.
comparable would be, and it's around $75 a month just for the phone part if an individual were to go to get a comparable.
But you gotta figure internet.
But you got your internet, your hotspot, and everything, and just kind of ballpark, I was kind of
And it's
figuring
not
around
unlimited,
$200
like
range
yours now?
per month to
Your whole
cover
package is
everything.
unlimited.
Now, I
Okay.
can tell
Because it's
you,
a
you can't get it
government.
for $200 out there if you're an individual. You can if you're a big company, but because we have unlimited on just about everything.
And it won't be unlimited on your personal, you'll have to pay for it.
You pay for it.
Yeah. so you have to
That,
pay
right,
extra.
because there's.
300 may get it, Jody.
Huh?
300 might get it. Counselor Thornton?
Yes, I've got a couple of situations to talk about here. One is, right now I have two phones. I have a private phone and the systems phone here that we have. A private phone, I like it a lot better. I know that the system over the years, I guess it's RITT or what, AT&T, whatever what it is, our people that have the system, they can tap into your phone, they can read your email, they can keep you from getting email. And that's one reason and the reason I know that is because I know people that have worked for the nation and they check their email, they're under investigation. So they pull their email, they check it. I can't send a message in to them on my phone that I use here, but I can on my private phone, and they don't have any say-so over it. But that's one of, or a couple of the things that I see that may help this unless we just go out and get our own system and pull it over here all together.
Now, we did check into that. We checked into moving us, just kind of make us a small company, and moving us out under Cherokee Nation, and it would just be us. Well, we checked two ways. We checked on a server, which was,
Way too much.
yeah, it was astronomical what it was gonna cost. Then we checked into a system where you went with the, like a small company concept with AT&T, which was much more reasonable. And then we checked in to just let you take your own. So, there are two other options. The server option is not, we don't have the money, and we don't have the money to keep it up. That's the most costly. The little small company deal with, it was AT&T though, wasn't it?
It's actually Microsoft.
Okay. That's more affordable.
But that's just
but-
for the email and everything.
Yeah,
That's not.
it doesn't take care
But
of all
this way
the
I can have a
situations.
private phone and have everything on one phone,
Well,
right?
if you wanted to go this final option, yes, you could have your private telephone, because we're just giving you a stipend. So you could have your own telephone and give us the number, and that's who we give that number out to your constituents. And for $14 or whatever, we have another 1,000 cards made or whatever. It's a very minute.
Well, the more I orders I get, the less it.
Yeah, and we just put your number on there.
But the email.
And
What you can do on the email is you can give us your email that you want us to have them send stuff to, but also you can keep your Cherokee.org and just have it bounced over to your private email
Over
system.
to your private email,
Some-
where you still get the Cherokee.org.
Terry, you have that done now. I've had it done for 7 years now. And so you're still getting everything, but you are off the system, but that might be an advantage.
But your computer, you'd have to get a system for it.
You would have to get internet for
Already
it,
got
which
one.
is about $30 a month, isn't it?
it just depends on where everybody's at.
Or wherever you
have to
best
get
get your
Service
service.
for your iPad too.
So apparently it varies from 30 to
If you wanna
60 or
use your
something like
iPad.
that.
You don't have to use your iPad for Cherokee.org.
I don't want you all to make a
Let's see.
decision today. I want you to think about it, talk about it, and then tell me what you want to do. Because it's a big step.
Another advantage, like Julie had mentioned, you know, when you do go out of office, if you go this way, the phone's yours,
You already got the number.
your internet's yours, everything's yours, there's no issues whether you can take the numbers, not take, it's all,
It's all yours.
You simply resume paying for it yourself, and that's
right.
our assumed.
I mean, you're already paying it for yourself, you just won't be
You
getting
keep
it.
whatever you want, you
breach of
discontinue whatever you
confidentiality.
want at the time that you leave.
Yeah.
So,
Well, this is for discussion only.
that's all
something
it
to
was
think
for.
about.
I didn't expect anyone to make a decision today, but it's come to this point that we've got to make a decision, because we just can't keep everybody, you live in too many different places.
Yeah.
So-
I'm really not excited about changing until I heard the comment from Counselor Thornton on the confidentiality. That's the only thing that really
Well,
questions
the
the
only
system.
way that solves that, where everyone has the comfort level, is we just pull out and we either go on our own, or we go, you become responsible for your own, but we give you a stipend so that you can get it.
Can you draft some options for us?
Jody? Because Jody and I have been working,
Yeah.
we've been working on this.
Yeah, he's kind of got some
And
prices
Jody,
now.
go ahead and put the price of the server and all that business on there, because, once we looked at that price, I didn't wanna go down that road anymore, because we didn't even have the money to do it.
Insurance. Will insurance be
Yeah, we'll need to figure an insurance deal in.
All housing?
Right, Tanya?
Do what?
Housing Authority has that small. company
Housing
thing.
Authority
That's
has
Microsoft.
the small company idea.
Yeah.
But now, I don't think it's just right, perfect yet,
Oh.
okay? 'Cause
And
it-
all that does is just the email, it still doesn't solve the
Yeah,
problem
it
with the
just does
phone
email, it don't take care of your phones
or
or your.
internet or anything like that, so.
Well, you may as well forget about privacy, because the government reads it all anyway. There is no privacy, nothing.
The privacy is you talk person to person about this far from each other.
Right.
And I'm not even sure that's private anymore. So Jody and I will work, and Gail will work up a deal,
Okay.
and we'll email it to you,
That's good.
okay?
All right, thank you, Jody. Okay. Announcements? Next meeting date is Thursday, July 31st at 1 o'clock. Need a motion to
Make a
adjourn.
motion to adjourn.
Second.
We're adjourned.